Hello and welcome. My name is Bergfinn, and we are back in Stellaris. You might notice a very Star Warsy background, because that is correct. We are playing the Star Wars mod, A Galaxy Divided, with the entire mod pack that's underneath. I will link the main page in the description down below, so you can just visit the Steam page yourself and see what is all in that pack. Spoiler alert, it's a lot. There's also Alpha mod in there, which I will not be playing with, simply because I don't really like Alpha mod. I still don't really like it. Many people might object, but I don't know, there's better alternatives. But a lot of people seem to like it, but I just personally don't. So let's dive right in, shall we? I have two things to show you in this initial episode. They have a actual galaxy for you set up for you with starting positions, etc. So we'll jump into observer mode and we'll just see how that galaxy looks like right from the start, so you guys have an idea about what's going on, etc, etc. So you know, these are the Sith. There's a lot of races. The Jedi Council, the Sith, Mandalorians, the Chiz, the Hutts. Not all have their custom models in yet. I know they are working on them, so it's quite interesting. But things like the Sith do, they also got their custom ships. I know the Jedi have their custom ships. Mandalorians don't yet, I don't think. Have a look at what kind of ships are available. It's all the ships from the different mods, from the mod pack, things they borrow on. So ignore things like the dirty, maybe the aquatics, you know, that sort of thing, factory. Ignore all that. What is interesting is the fact that there are Mandalorian ships in, although they're not completely tied in yet, because they're not 100% done, I don't think. There's a pirate pack, which I think is from a different mod. And then you have the main ones, which are also from different mod packs in here. So the Old Republic, Sith Empire, I think, comes with a separate mod. The main ones that, you know, these you probably recognize if you played any of the Star Wars ship packs at all. But I think these two come with the main mod itself, which is the Republic ships and the Sith ships. That's kind of interesting, but you have all sorts of things, you know, a lot of species to go at, to try and pick. You can even play as Kua, Mon Calamari, which I must admit, they have picked a relatively interesting species for that, which is I think is standard in the game, so it's kind of interesting. It doesn't really matter who we pick right now, because it's not what I'm going to be showing you in this very first episode. As to the format, I'm still debating. It's probably going to be one episode showing the early game. A episode after that, or the first week, like showing you the early game, and then me playing during the week a little bit to a point where, you know, a little more advanced. I can show you a few more things, etc, etc. And then next week we'll play the mid game, going into the end game, which is kind of interesting, because, you know, that way I can show you the real aspects of all levels of the game currently out there. Keep in mind, of course, 1.5 is on its way, and it's going to be fun. So let's just go and dive a little deeper into this. So there's also new traits and stuff. Obviously, there's traits that are added by mods that are in this pack. But there's also things like Force Attuned, which actually comes in from the mod itself, which is very interesting. And then, you know, you can look at, let's see, Government and Ethics. There is the Light Side Servants and the Dark Side Servants, which is very interesting. This comes with a mod that's in here, but the races are not set up to use it per se. So, you know, you can pick whatever the hell you want in that respect, which is very interesting. Same for the Sith, they have Dark Side Servants, etc. you know, abundant is all indie game standard, force attuned. It gives a lot of interesting mechanics to a lot of things, so it's relatively interesting how they are going with this mod. And a lot of ways, this mod is going into a similar-ish direction as the New Horizons mod, the Star Trek New Horizons mod, with a lot of things that they're trying to edit in the base game. But I'm yet to see it going as deep as the New Horizons mod, which I'm really hoping this one does as well. Because quite simply, it would be amazing to have a Star Trek mod and a Star Wars mod on the exact same quality level for people to play out there, which would be mind-bogglingly cool. So let's just pick the good guys for now. Let's select them. So this is the galaxy you have available. You can just play normal because you can still make your own races, which is something that the Star Trek mod doesn't really do, which is very sad in my eyes. You can pick Star Wars, a galaxy divided map. It will have 37 races starting. No advanced starts because they're custom starts. It's very important, they're custom starts. Let's just keep it like this. That's all cool. Okay, play. So,
situation log updated.
There you go.
Alien vessel encountered.
So this is the thing about the Jedi start, is you start as the Galactic Republic. It's pretty cool, I have to admit. You start off with a group of people, which pretty much makes you unbeatable for the rest of the game. That's the only thing, you know, my straight up first complaint is that, but it's fine. This is the galaxy, so it's a very Star Warsy, very custom built galaxy. So let's dive into observer mode. So, wow. What is observe again? You can see I do a lot of mod testing. There we go. Sorry. A lot of mod testing with just console commands trying to get things to happen, factions to grow, etc. So this is basically the starting point of how the galaxy starts off. So a lot of species, including things like the Zabrags, which is kind of interesting. Observer, you can actually click on them. Yeah, there is the colony, the enclave, and the Infinite Empire remnants as your fallen empires in this mod, which is kind of interesting. I didn't actually know of the Gree, but now I do. Interesting enough. But things like the Mon Calamari are in somewhat their historical or lore-wise place at Mon Calamari, this corner of the galaxy. There's a couple things which, you know, I'm used to playing things like Empire at War, and I realize more and more that that galaxy is not very accurately portrayed. So, what is interesting to me is that a lot of these planets, they're on like hyperspace lanes. And it's very interesting to see, if you know lore-wise, that there are a couple main large shipping lanes. For instance, follow my cursor, this one, going to Coruscant and going up. Then there's this one, which is the same similar thing. And this one going down, this one going up. Those are main hyperspace lanes, which is really interesting because a lot of like the lore planets are also on there. That's a thing. Everything is in here. So if you know a planet that you've once seen in Star Wars, it's probably in here. Things like Javin. See if we can find one more that's very interesting around here. Asus is right here. Mon Calamari, obviously, but things like Dorman Cass, Korriban, Madrias is all in here, which is very interesting. And Ligaria, because slavers. Because why not, right? Ventuine and There are so many interesting worlds, and in the core, of course, we have things like Kuat. There's a lot of worlds in here. Alderaan, I see, Typhon, Coruscant. So, you know, you can play the entire galaxy if you want to, which is very, very, very interesting. Now, this is not actually a start I want to show you. I want to play in a galaxy that's not yet set up. Why, you ask? Well, I did a test as the Sith, and I did a test as these guys. Now, you know, I don't really like, quote-unquote, playing the coalition kind of gameplay, because you cannot really expand all that well, especially in a start like this. You're very, very, very restricted in space, because, you know, they're all, like, right next to each other. I don't really like that, per se. That, and the way the Sith start, with the pretty much an economic advantage over, oh, I don't know, pretty much every species out there currently. Except maybe the Chiz. But they're in this corner of space being blocked in by a fallen empire. So they're never gonna change or do anything with it. Which is, you know. There's a couple things that there are limitations in the Stellaris engine and the way it works right now, which is relatively unfortunate. But that is, I'm used now to EU4. I did some EU4 testing, so it's kind of interesting. But there is a lot of
Comlink active.
Look at this. I don't know what to think of the textures per se. But I'm willing to show you if this is the correct ship pack. Because there is technologies. Yeah, that's the wrong one. Let me grab the wiki real quick because it has console commands on it. Games, console commands, Stellaris, research technologies. Oh, this has the underscore in it. Of course, you inconsistent bastards. So here's the first thing that you'll notice. There's a research. The first time you research turbolasers, you get to choose your color. Isn't that awesome? Obviously, we're going for green.
Complete.
Obviously. This way I can show you all the ships that are in custom models that are in. I'm hoping this is the right pack. The right ship pack, and it doesn't switch. It doesn't look like it does. Alright, cool. So you start off with what you may be used to from playing in the Old Republic. You know, I think this is the Jedi Knight ship? Not entirely sure, but then there's, of course, these cruisers. The only complaint I have of these textures is it looks like tin foil. Like aluminium foil. I don't know why they did it, but it's the texture they used. This one I like. This one I like a lot. It's pretty cool. And then of course the giant battleship, which is a bit too much lighting I feel for the model, but there's another one out there which is pretty cool. Sadly, with these ship specs, there isn't custom models for most of these. Very unfortunate. You might also notice there is a giant row of these kind of things underneath. They don't actually work. I don't know why, but they don't. The fortresses are very interesting though. Basically the build up. You know, the Tier 1, Tier 2, and the Citadel, which has the things to the side. Very cool. Very cool indeed. Even built the fighters, which I don't know. Overly, the battleship is the best thing to look at for weapons and shit and stuff like it. So let's look at that. So these are the X level things that are added, which is mind-bogglingly one, which is the Conqueror Supalaisar. Then there is a lot of weapons actually added from here. Anything from disruptors to light ion cannons. all the way down to octuple turbo lasers, for the ones you find on Star Destroyers, if I remember my thing correctly. And then there is the concussion missiles, the ion pulse missiles, and the other very, you know, typical Star Wars weapons. They're all in here. All the ship stuff is in here, which is kind of interesting. They haven't really changed much about the modules as of yet, which, I don't know, might be incoming. As you see, there is not a whole lot in there. As you can see, however, the AI stuff is in the mod pack, which is pretty cool. But yeah, that is everything for ships and stuff. And then there is something interesting in leadership, which is a powerful force user. Now, depending, and let's see if I can find one in here for things like governors and things like, they have different modifiers when it comes to what role they take. But the force user is in all of those. It's at least there. There we go. So in this one, the force user is building costs, army costs, social society output, which is a lot of society output, I might add. You know, powerful force user. And this one is basically a very large amount of increase in research speed. And not just, you know, it's very cool because it actually adds more research speed than it's actually showing. Because this shows literally like, alright, so Psychonics and the Force will get an update. No, they're basically the same as this guy. I don't know if why they didn't show that, but we're lucky. So powerful Force user in a Space Admiral kind of thing is, you know, FTL damage down, fire rate up, weapons range, sensor range. Very lucky. In generals, it's basically a flat bonus to both army morale and army damage. Which is really cool that they added that thing in each 4 of the main tiers of leaders that you get. With that though, there's not a whole lot I can say extra. They didn't. The mod itself doesn't really add a lot of strategic resources yet. Like a lot of the custom strategic resources you're gonna find are actually based on the other mods that are around. Now there is one planet which I found, which is relatively interesting. I just wanted to show you before we go anywhere. So there is a world which is not connected by hyperlanes. It's Yeneba. And that, if you don't know, very interesting lore-wise. But it's not connected, so it's like forever neutral, which is exactly what it was. I'm not gonna spoil that yet, in case we find it in our actual attempt. So with that, I'm gonna leave the episode 1 or episode 0, however you want to call this, which is just a quick introduction in a Galaxy Divided mod, which is very interesting, has a lot of potential, and I'm going to show you how much fun the mod pack can be in the next 9 to 10 episodes. I thank you all for watching, and keep an eye out for that first real episode as playing tomorrow. Bye bye.